Hi, it's Andrew from Acuity AutoRedact. Welcome to the Data Protection Weekly podcast, where we wrap up all the biggest issues affecting data protection professionals in the UK each week. In 2026, the majority of your data subject access request headaches aren't going to be neatly solved by going through your CRM, your HR database, even email inboxes. They're going to be increasingly buried. They're going to be buried in informal and corporate chat logs, a mountain of emojis in a Teams chat, or perhaps a Google chat, which has gone into a lot of depth and detail. You might use Slack. They might be hidden across those channels or platforms like Monday. Data is fragmented, and this can be a data subject access request headache. So let's start to think about what we can do. Now, it's always useful, I like to do this at the start of our episodes together, is to set the scene. So let's imagine you've got a DSAR. It's got a disgruntled former employee raising it, and they've hit you with the classic, I want all data about me everywhere and forever. Now, obviously, with the DUAA, you get a bit of pushback. You can turn around and say that's too wide a scope. You need to be more specific. But if they start talking about the times that I've been discussed in certain contexts or that certain things have been raised about me, that could be across a range of channels. It could be Slack, Teams, Google Chat. It could be lots of internal IM platforms, business WhatsApp. It's not just like the good old days, if there was such a thing, where we could just get into email inboxes, maybe personnel file on a database, or a login to one or two systems, and you were done. It's going to be unstructured. Sometimes we refer to this as corporate chaos in communication, and particularly in organizations where there isn't a really clear internal comms strategy, communications can be spread across a lot of platforms, and obviously that's not really a good thing for workplace productivity. But, if we were saying that places aren't using WhatsApp and Slack and tools like that a little bit, kind of mix and match, we'd probably be a bit naive. Lots of places do this, and turning the dial is often very, very difficult. So again, under UK GDPR, personal data is personal data. Doesn't matter the medium, it's personal data. And the ICO doesn't care if the decision to, pass someone over promotion was formally documented in an email with a thumbs down emoji, or whether it was a private Slack channel where this was being discussed in terms of who was going to get the job or not. It could be in an employment tribunal, somebody putting a smiley face emoji or a response to a message, just replying with an emoji, carries legal weight in terms of how an employee was treated. So again, the problem is context. Chat platforms aren't designed like email. Even though email is just a send and respond platform, chat platforms have built a kind of atmosphere where you talk in a stream of consciousness. People are brief. People sometimes use emojis and symbols to mean certain things. This can be ambiguous. There can be references to inside jokes. There can be threads that keep going on. People can infer meaning through responding with a meme GIF, potentially. It depends on your corporate environment and communication protocols. Exporting that data, reviewing it and redacting it is going to be a big time effort, because e-discovery is going to have to be spread between a lot of different platforms, and you're going to have to potentially look at whether an emoji confers context or not. And I'm very interested in looking at the first DSARs that states the reason for redacting an emoji. And the volume of communication can be staggering. Actually going through every single line of a chat message or a chat thread is going to be difficult. Even if you manage to negotiate the term to 3 years, it's going to be a problem. You're going to have to potentially say, we can't do this within 30 days. So what can be done in order to start to manage the Slack attack, for use of a better term? How can we survive this without getting to the point where we're not being compliant with our responses? Well, a couple of things I would suggest. I would shift your initial focus from search to negotiation. Obviously, when you get that blanket give me everything request, your first move should always be to think, actually, we need to pause the clock and ask for the subject to say exactly what do you want. Everything is often too broad a scope. You have the right, if they are saying they want everything, to ask them to be more specific and to ask them what processing activities you want them to report, you want you to report back on, what the request relates to, making sure that it's politely phrased, but that you are saying, this is what you have asked for. That's a huge scope. Could you slim this down and be specific so that I'm giving you the exact information that you want? And you can phrase that helpfully when you do a pushback. You know, I've seen lots of people send pushbacks that say, well, actually, if I gave you everything unstructured, you probably would struggle to find the thing you're after. Can I help you by just giving you the things that you want to know about? And that's often a nice, polite thing to do, but also it's your right as the DPO. Step 2 is to use the targeted parameters framework. So you need to narrow the scope. Don't just ask what you want, lead the negotiation. Propose what it might be that you think they want. If they say they want everything, maybe have a targeted parameter in place that you respond back with. I see you've asked for this. Would you just like your HR records? Would you just like your promotion records? Would you just like the information related to why one specific decision went a certain way? Try to lead the conversation and have maybe some pre-written suggestive scopes that they may want to ask for. So if you turn around and push back, say, actually, you've requested everything, but we think you may just want option 1, option 2, or option 3 in order to get the information that you're actually after. That can help a little bit too. So you could start to write something like, dear insert name, to ensure we provide you with the most relevant information as quickly as possible, and given the extensive volume of informal chat communications during your employment, could you please help us narrow down the search? Are there particular dates or time frames that you're interested in us reporting back on? Are there specific projects or individuals that you were communicating with regarding this matter that we could focus on to make sure you get their responses and this information related to what you're asking for rather than everything? And are there specific keywords or search terms that relate to your core concern that could help us phrase and get the information that you actually want? Step 3, establish reasonable search boundaries. So even after you've negotiated what the scope is and you can go back and forward, and again, that is fine to do, you might still have a lot of data. So you might need to define what a reasonable search is for your organization. And even though you are obliged to make a reasonable effort to find and retrieve the requested information, you don't have to turn over every digital stone if the effort is completely disproportionate to the benefits of the data subject. So give them a copy of your search strategy. If you decided not to search for a certain channel because it was completely irrelevant to their request, document it and why you did that. You can put that down. But if you document your rationale for why a certain communication channel or thread was outside of scope, so if you make it really clear you didn't look at the chat about one particular work chat where there's lots and lots of backwards and forwards communication because it's often whole company and often very irrelevant what's discussed there to that particular employee and the person who's raised the request, and you've made that really, really explicit, that can be a good defense. Again, it's all about being transparent and clear, but if you're transparent and you document your rationale, it means that if there is a complaint, it's easy to process because you've already explained why you didn't look at that channel. And as long as it is set in law that you are not doing a ridiculously disproportionate search, you have that defense, but you have to use that carefully. You can't just turn around and say, we're not going to search or this particular channel that you know is what they're after. You have to be able to look and say, well, actually, that needs to be out of scope because it's a daily, work notification channel that doesn't actually discuss what is the basis of your search that you've requested for. So these are things that you can do to help defend against the Slack attack. So let's just recap. So firstly, when somebody gives you the everything, I need every single thing, don't panic. Negotiate the scope, even suggest pre-written parameters for what they may be wanting to search for. It's good practice as a data protection officer to have some of these to hand. Like, are you just requesting HR data? Are you just requesting information where you've been discussed as the explicit subject of an email thread. Really having those kind of suggestions that you can give, negotiate it and agree. Once you've managed to do that, make sure that you meticulously document your search rationale, how you've done it, anything that you've judged to be outside of scope and why it's outside the scope of the request as well. And as well as that, establish reasonable time limits. Can't be everything ever. Maybe you would say, is it a particular concern around a project or timeline or a particular group of people? And that allows you to really limit your search, so you're not having to go through mountains of unstructured data. But again, the data subject is entitled to you showing personal information that relates to them, that you store in them. So you need, as long as it's not obviously excessive, so you need to make sure that you're carrying out the process properly. So that's it for this episode of Data Protection Weekly. I hope this gives you a bit more confidence next time you see a Slack attack or a DSAR land in your inbox. And just a reminder, if you are also looking for a way to quickly redact documents after your e-discovery phase, do check out Acuity AutoRedact. Acuity AutoRedact offers a service whereby an AI will go through all the documents you upload and that you give it access to. It will propose how it would redact everything, and then you as the DPO can set rules and toggles to allow that to match exactly what you want. So it speeds up redaction from a process taking, potentially days and days and days to one that takes minutes instead. So thanks, that's all for this week, and looking forward to discussing another data protection concern next week. Thanks.
Data Protection Weekly.